It's Friday. The group chat is going. Someone's already booked the table. Your thumb hovers over a reply you've typed and deleted twice, because both versions came from the same thought. I'd be bothering them. So you lock the phone and set it face down. Nobody left you out of anything. You did that part yourself. And the cruel part isn't even that. It's what you felt the second the screen went dark. You typed it twice, once too keen, once too cool, and you read the second one back before deleting it, which is the part I'd want you to notice. I'd be bothering them. That isn't a fact you checked. It's a call you made on their behalf, alone, in about 90 seconds, and they never found out there was a vote. Then the phone goes face down, and the group chat carries on, because it doesn't know it's carrying on without you. And this is the part I actually wanted to talk about tonight. The second that screen went dark, you felt relief. Not sadness. That came later, around 11. Relief. Small, warm, immediate, gone inside a minute. That's the whole video, right there. And it's why none of the usual advice has ever touched this. Because whatever just happened, it worked. Something got easier. And on Saturday, when the next one lands, your thumb already knows the move. Start with what this even is, because the word gets used badly. Loneliness isn't a headcount. The definition researchers actually use is a gap between the connection you want and the connection you're getting. It's subjective, and that's not a weakness in the definition. It's the whole point. Which is why the loneliest hour of your week might be one you spend surrounded. Most of it passes, too. You move cities, you start a job, you lose somebody, and it lifts on its own. That's the ordinary kind, and almost everyone gets it. The version worth an evening is the kind that moves in, unpacks, starts answering the door, because that's the one that's been around long enough to develop habits. And the people who spent their whole careers on this landed somewhere kinder than you'd expect. The main framing is that loneliness works like hunger. It's an alarm. It's unpleasant on purpose, because pleasant alarms don't get anyone off the sofa. Its whole job is to push you back toward people. It's the dominant reading, not a unanimous one. But it changes what the feeling is. Sit with that a second, because it makes the feeling a different object than the one you've been carrying. It isn't evidence that something's wrong with you. It's evidence that something's missing. Those two sound almost identical at 11 p.m. on a Friday, with the phone face down, and they are not remotely the same sentence. One's a verdict on you, and the other's just a fact about your week. The usual explanation for why we'd have an alarm like that is that being cut off from the group used to be genuinely dangerous, so we grew a warning for it. I'll be honest, that's an evolutionary story, and those are easy to tell and hard to test. Take it as a way of holding the feeling, not as a fact about your ancestors. It doesn't need to be true for the alarm to be real. You can feel it in your chest without a theory. Here's the finding that does most of the work, and it's one of the more consistent ones. Loneliness changes how you read a room. People who are lonely tend to notice rejection faster, expect less warmth, and rate the same evening as colder than someone standing right next to them at the same evening. Same room, same people, different reading. So the one-word reply lands differently for you than it would for someone else. Okay, and I'm not going to tell you they didn't mean anything by it. That's the lazy version, and you'd see through it. Maybe they were annoyed. Maybe they were driving. The honest problem isn't that you're wrong. It's that you've stopped being able to tell, and you're calling the darker read information. Which sets up the loop, and this is the spine of the whole thing. It goes like this. The loneliness raises the watchfulness. The watchfulness makes you approach people a little braced. Braced reads from outside as cool. Cool gets you less warmth back, and less warmth confirms you were right to be watching. Round it goes, quietly, for years. And I'll be honest that this is a model, a well-supported one, not a proven chain. There's work following people over time that fits it, and it's the best account we've got. And it's still an account. But sit with it anyway, because it explains the thing that otherwise makes no sense. How the person who most wants to be let in ends up being the one holding the door half shut. The part I'd underline is that nobody in this story is doing anything wrong. Your friends aren't cold. You're not needy. There's no villain. That's what makes it so hard to fight. Everyone's responding reasonably to what they're being shown, and what they're being shown is a person who seems fine, and the whole thing keeps running on politeness. Which is what your thumb did tonight. The deleted message is the loop's cheapest move. No risk, no rejection, and a small, warm hit of relief for the trouble. You'll make it again on Tuesday, at the grocery checkout, when you spot someone you know 2 lanes over and become extremely interested in the gum. And the group chat gets on with it, and by December, it's slightly less your group chat. No door slammed. You just kept not sending things. Now, 2 things that keep this honest, and both matter more than the loop does. First, alone isn't the same as lonely. Some people genuinely need less contact than the culture insists on. A small life and a quiet phone is a real way to live, not a symptom. And if that's you, then there is nothing here to fix, and I'm not going to invent something. And second, I don't want to hand you the idea that it's all in how you see it. Sometimes you're reading the room correctly. Sometimes it is a cold room. Sometimes it's the wrong room, full of perfectly nice people who don't know you and were never going to. And the loneliness is the only part of you that noticed and said so. That changes what to do about it. So I want to be clear. If the lens is off, you work on the lens. If the room's wrong, no amount of reframing fixes a wrong room, and telling yourself to see it more generously is just a slower way of staying in it. Sometimes the honest answer isn't perception. It's a different room, possibly a whole different set of people. When researchers compared ways of helping with loneliness, the thing that came out ahead wasn't the one that supplied more company. It was the work on how the company gets read. The effects were modest. I'm not selling you a fix, and it was imperfect studies against imperfect studies. But it points somewhere uncomfortable. You can be handed a room full of people and still stand outside it. Which is why put yourself out there lands like a slap. It's not that you don't know you should connect. You know. You've known for 2 years. It's that the advice is aimed at the supply of people, and the supply of people was never the problem. You had a group chat going tonight, with a table booked, and you were invited. So the smallest possible move, and smaller than feels reasonable. Not rebuild the social life, not go to the thing. Send the message you deleted, the worse-written one. Tonight it's not about whether they reply. It's about breaking the one habit that's actually been running this, which is that you keep deciding for them. And if this hasn't lifted in a long time, if it stopped feeling like a season and started feeling like the weather, talking to someone who does this for a living genuinely helps. It sits close to depression, and it isn't depression. You can be lonely and otherwise fine. But loops are hard to leave alone, and you've been alone with this one, which is sort of the joke, and it isn't funny. So the phone's still face down. It's still Friday. They're still going, and the table's still booked, and the version you deleted is still sitting in the box if you scroll up. I'm not going to tell you to send it. I'd just ask you to notice the relief if you don't, and to know what that relief is costing you by about March. Rare Mind does one of these a week if you want the company.